Let's move on to news out of the Middle East, Ryan. Some big updates just yesterday. You actually drove some of the news yesterday. I think we have a clip of you in the State Department briefing right now that we can start with.
Yeah, this is actually, I guess the question sets it up itself. Yeah, so we can roll the clip in the State Department.
Pope Francis said recently, he said, quote, "Unarmed civilians are subjected to bombings and shootings, and this even happened inside the parish complex of the Holy Family, where there are no terrorists, but families, children, sick and disabled people, nuns. Someone says it's terrorism, it's war. Yes, it's war, it's terrorism," unquote. So first, is the Pope wrong about this? And is the U.S. concerned about its standing among the international community if the Pope is willing to describe what Israel is doing as terrorism?
So one of the things that we have made clear to Israel from the outset is that we do not want to see churches, mosques, schools, hospitals attacked. In the secretary's last trip, he had a very candid conversation with the Israeli government about the importance of protecting those civilian sites and ensuring that they are on deconfliction lists so they are not targeted. I will say, with respect to this particular incident that you raised, we raised this directly with the Israeli government and asked tough questions about it, and we will continue to do so.
What are the answers?
Yeah, tough questions. It raises the question of how weak is the United States here? Like, if they're serious, that they genuinely don't want Israel bombing churches, mosques, schools, and hospitals, and Israel continues to target churches, schools, hospitals, and mosques, what does that say? So one of two things, right? Like, either the U.S. has no leverage over Israel and is like the weakest superpower that's ever existed on the face of the earth, puppet master, they can't find the strings, or it's actively supportive of it and just saying so otherwise in public.
This particular incident is we have no answers to your point about them, your point to Matt Miller. He's saying, we've raised this issue and asked, quote, tough questions, and we'll continue to, keep you updated on it. I want to know what Israel told them, because this is continues to be a really strange situation that's starting to remind me of the Shireen Abu Akleh incident. Right. Obviously, tragedy a couple of years ago. It was like a year and a half ago at this point, where the Israeli government said, we absolutely did not do this, or the IDF said, we absolutely did not do this. They came out and said, this is not how we operate. And it eventually turned out that's what happened.
Yeah, it is what happened.
The evidence so far is suggesting that it is what happened. But typically when you get a flat denial from, I'm not just talking about Israel, but any government, just absolutely no, that means you don't usually
maybe we should take this
go to the when you're going on the record, maybe you take seriously that denial as opposed to just like, oh, we'll review it, whatever it is. Usually you take that more seriously than someone brushing the question off. The evidence here continues to suggest that a mother and a daughter were sniped basically when they left a church.
And according to the church officials there, one of the women was shot and killed. The other woman was trying to bring her into safety inside the church and was then herself shot. And that 7 other people were wounded who were then trying to help those 2 women who were shot. They also say that an Israeli tank shelled the church compound, blew up their generator, so now they're without power, and also destroyed a kind of side complex where 54 disabled people were finding refuge. And by destroying the generator and their breathing machines and adding them to the 2 million displaced persons, have put their lives at very serious risk, because they're the kinds of people that cannot live without electricity. And so Israel would try to claim, like they did with Shireen Abu Akleh, well, this was Palestinians that shot at them.
And we don't target journalists.
And we don't target journalists or whatever. In this case, the claim that like Hamas may have done this for some weird reason is undermined by the fact that there's also like IDF tanks there shelling the church, because like Hamas doesn't have tanks.
Well, wasn't the IDF's initial response, or somebody in the Israeli government's initial response, was to say we were operating there against Hamas? So like they said, they conceded right away that they were operating in the area against Hamas.
Right, and so their public responses have been deplorable. So let's play a couple of those. Let's roll this one right here.
You heard our Member of Parliament, Layla Moran there, her relatives, 6 of them, targeted by Israeli army snipers in a church compound in Gaza. What on earth is going on?
Well, that's the question to Layla, not to me. I think that I can only say that we as the Jewish people are used to blood libels. So to hear that Israeli snipers are targeting women on purpose and not letting them leave the church is something that reminds me usually the atmosphere in the Middle Ages before another holiday.
Are you saying it's a lie? Are you saying it didn't happen?
This is a flat lie, absolutely.
All right, so that's one approach to say that, well, it's actually blood libel and anti-Semitism.
Literally to ask questions. To ask questions
To ask the question about it, yeah. And here's the other approach. Believe it or not, perhaps even worse than that one.
Why is it necessary, is reported, to start shooting, having snipers outside a church?
I saw the reports this morning. There are no churches in Gaza, so I'm not quite sure where the report is talking about.
There's a Catholic church in there, isn't there? That is.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are no Christians because they were driven out by.
Well, respectfully, there are Christians because I spoke to an MP yesterday who has family members in the church who are Christians.
Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know who was attacked. I didn't see the report.
Oh, didn't see the report. If people missed that, she started out, yeah, I saw that report. There's no Christians. Oh, no, sorry. I didn't see the report. I feel like
she's the mayor.
Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem.
Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem.
Who goes on TV a decent amount. If we're going to be lied to, can we get some better liars? Like, don't contradict yourself within a span of 32 seconds. But there's another interesting dynamic unfolding here. In both of those clips, the presenter spoke with probably the same MP in Britain who has Christian family who was there.
Yes.
And so heard directly from the family members told the MP told the presenter. This is a chain of trust. Mm-hmm. So that when they are then confronting Israeli officials, like, you're lying to me because I have heard from people that I trust that X happened. And there are something like 1,500, slightly fewer, kind of quote-unquote registered Christians in Gaza, which is, it's bizarre, and it raises questions about what Israel's doing with Gaza when there are registered Christians. Like, why is there a list? And why is there a registry that Israel has access to? But setting that aside, the rest, for the most part, are Muslims and don't have the same connections, with American presenters or British presenters, and so then aren't able to kind of get their story out in the same way. The video evidence has been substituting, for that direct kind of trust that people have. But you can see that it's basically impossible for Israel to confront people when they have the trust of the people that are witnessing these crimes. What did you make of this really unimpressive kind of response there? Yeah, I mean, firstly, I think it is, to your point, you used the word deplorable. I get the sensitivities on behalf of Israelis right now, but to immediately pivot to blood libel when people are asking questions about a mother and a daughter being sniped outside of a church, and not unreasonable questions, by the way, people with reasonable questions that aren't on the ground, that are hearing things from, for example, an MP, a member of parliament, and who said— church officials. Including the Pope. Literally the Vatican's news website. And like, listen, I'm not Catholic. I don't put a whole lot of credence in what this Pope says. You might be shocked to learn. The Catholic Church does not have the best record throughout history, but on the question of whether or not Catholics were massacred inside their church, I'm a lean in their direction. So they have this mother and daughter, and again, you have an MP saying that this, based on family that's in the area, that this is what happened. You have the Vatican saying that this is what happened. You have the Israelis saying a couple of different things about what might have actually happened. You cannot immediately pivot to that's bigotry for asking questions. You can't. And the Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem is absolutely correct that there are very few Christians. She said no. She said there's no churches in Gaza, there's no Christians in Gaza. Drove them all out. Right. She's trying to make a point. And it's true that the Christian population has been decimated. The historic Christian population there has been decimated. There are some beautiful, very old Christian churches in that area that were actually hit. One of the very first places to be hit, actually, in the war was when Justin Amash's relatives were killed. Right, absolutely. And so it's true. Like 2/3 of the Christian population of Gaza has basically been like
fled or killed in recent years. So there are about 1,000 left. 1,000 is not no. That's a lot of people, and that's like tight-knit church communities. So
preparing for Christmas.
Preparing for Christmas, and they have mishandled. Like this is a really bad strategy, PR strategy on their behalf. And that's not even to get into whatever military strategy may have led to this, because again, like we don't have all the answers. I eagerly await Matt Miller, being pressed and giving us the answers. He says he's asked tough questions and that the State Department has asked tough questions. I'm eager to hear that, because this sort of tension between Israel saying precision and then Israel saying parking lot. The precision and parking lot tension is a really, like, obviously a huge question.
Yeah, and the whole "we would never do such a thing" defense doesn't fly today because of what happened with the 3 Israeli hostages just days ago, where the IDF, we know, used snipers to kill 3 men, Israeli men, who had their shirts off to show they had no explosives and were waving a white flag. Because we know that as a fact. And so this, like, we would never do such a thing using snipers doesn't land.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.